Hello, everyone, and welcome to Halton Garden Week. My name is Andrea Rowe, and I'm the Director of Sustainable Environments for Halton Environmental Network, and one of your hosts for the week. Joining us today is Joan LaSalle, a registered nurse, and she's here to talk to us about the health benefits of gardening. She's going to share some of her personal experiences, some of her background, and her passion for gardening and all of the health benefits that it will bring. So thank you, Joan. Thanks for joining us today, and I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you very much for having me. So I'd like to start by saying why I believe that gardening is important. Gardening really connects us to the earth and to the animals and to nature. And really, it's like life's biggest classroom for children and adults alike. And I think it offers something for everybody. So before I get into some of the specifics about gardening, I would like to tell you a little bit about myself. So I'm a nurse and I have practiced for more than 36 years. Most of it's been in public health. And of course, public health, you've heard a lot about public health these days. That's all about prevention. I'm now semi-retired. I still work a little bit for the health department and I work a little bit for the Anglican Diocese at St. Christopher's Church. One of my favorite programs that I've done over the years, of course, has been community kitchens, which I've done with my parenting groups. And of course, that's directly related to gardening. We relied on the garden at St. Christopher's, as well as other gardens in the area to provide some of the ingredients for our community kitchens. One of the other things that I have really been involved with over the years is the neighborhood groups. And neighborhood groups are supportive groups that bring all kinds of people together. It could be at a church location or at an early years center. Parents and children meet and learn all kinds of different things, participate together. One of the things we participated in with our neighborhood group was, again, we do have the benefit of having the community garden at the back, and we were able to incorporate that into some of our programming. So that's a little bit about me and professionally, and at the end I'm going to talk a little bit about my personal journey with gardening as well. But what I'd really like to talk to you about now is why gardening is so important, and I'd like to talk about 5 foundations of health. And so I really believe that there are many foundations to health. First of all, this is not an exclusive list, but these are some of the most important things that we can focus on. So physical well-being, emotional and mental health, good sleep, healthy nutrition, and of course, lifelong learning, because we always want to be engaged and looking forward to, to doing other things in life. So I'd like to touch on the first one, physical well-being. So research has really shown us that a lot of people are not getting the minimum, not meeting the minimum requirements for physical activity. And that's across all age groups, whether you're children or adults or senior citizens. And one of the easiest ways to get some really great physical activity is by gardening. And gardening offers this in a variety of ways. So you can have some gentle and easy activities for folks that just want to do some gentle stretching and bending or increase their flexibility. Or if you're looking for something a little more physical, there can be digging in a garden, planting trees, planting a full vegetable garden. So there's lots of ways to be physical in the garden. And the other thing that happens at the same time, of course, is that you're spending some time outside and outside in nature. And again, if I can just talk about some of the research, it tells us that children, especially over the last many years, have not been spending enough time outside in nature. And there's actually a name for this, and it's called nature deficit disorder. And there's been many books written on it. And gardening, again, provides an easy access to nature right in your backyard or in your local park or in your local community garden. So I like to say that even in the winter, um, there still is lots of activities that you can do in your garden, or you can be thinking about gardening and planning for what's going to be happening in the spring, taking some hikes outside to see what kinds of plants or trees or animals that you want to attract to the garden. So again, there's lots of opportunity for nature and for physical activity, even such as walking or hiking. Um, I'd like to talk about the second foundation of health here, and that's emotional and mental health. So one of the things that I really learned about gardening is that you can have a lot of camaraderie with gardening. So you can join up with other people to garden together, such as in the community gardens, if you're doing something in person. It's wintertime. Sometimes people just feel like staying inside for a while. Maybe you want to join up with a group online. And you can also join up with a local horticultural society. Most of their meetings are still going on by Zoom right now. I have a group that I belong to, and it's a group that's actually based out of the UK. And it's really nice because you get to see pictures of other people's gardens all year long. And there's one man in particular that every day he posts just a good morning post to say, hello and have a good day to everyone. And I've noticed that people really look forward to this little routine every day of just saying hello, looking at a lovely picture of a garden. So I think it's really important to connect with other people. And that's one of the things that gardening offers you is it's a place to connect. So just to reiterate a little bit, um, there's a lot of emotional and mental health benefits to gardening. I talked a little bit about joining various groups, such as an online Facebook group or an online horticultural society. But as we're getting into spring, don't forget that a lot of garden centers will be available again, and of course, a lot of community garden programs will be starting up again. Um, so this part of gardening is really great for emotional support. And I want to tell you just a little bit about our community garden at St. Christopher's. And I just want to say that they're great opportunities to be volunteering, and you don't really need to have any special skills, any special knowledge, any special tools, and it's a great opportunity to get children involved. So what we did at St. Christopher's, we took an evening, basically Tuesday night is when our group would run. And so during the summer when our group wasn't running, we would take that time and our parents would take a turn to go out and water in the garden. And this was a great way to get the children involved. Of course, who doesn't like playing with the hose on a hot summer night? But some of the people that joined us during this time were not members of our group. They were just people that happened to be there at the community supper or happened to be in the neighborhood and wondered, kind of what was going on. And so they were able to take their turn and bring, some new kids in to help with the garden at the time. And the nice thing about it is that a lot of those people stayed and joined some of the other programs that were there or stayed at our parents group and became very important in our group. So they felt emotionally supported at the time. And again, you don't really need any special talents, just, reaching out to other people, or, bending down and telling a child about what this plant is for, and, just basic things like that. So again, a lot of camaraderie. So I'd like to touch on the third foundation here. It kind of goes without saying that if you've been spending a lot of time outside being physical, if you're feeling emotionally supported, if your anxiety happens to be reduced by being out in the garden, then it kind of goes without saying that you're promoting good sleep habits and, working on some good sleep routines there. So there's some really good basic foundations that are really happening. So our fourth foundation is about healthy nutrition. And of course, there's all kinds of gardens. I talked a little bit about the community gardens. It doesn't really matter what kind of plants you grow at home. They're always a really good learning opportunity for children. Um, but vegetables are, I think, of special interest to kids. And I think it's really important to teach children where their food is coming from. So growing a garden, whether you have a small piece of land you can do that on, or whether you decide that you want to grow some vegetables in pots, it doesn't really matter. It's all great learning activities for children. So kids are learning about where their food comes from. They're also learning about eating local. They're getting better benefits from the food because, it's not traveling through a long shipping system and losing nutrients along the way. So there's lots of benefits for healthy nutrition. And, nutrition education was always very important when I was working as a public health nurse. And there's a lot of complicated messages out there about nutrition and about food. And Canada's food guide is great. The new healthy plate is great, but you don't have to try and memorize anything. And one of the best messages I think that we can give kids when they're eating their vegetables is just to encourage them to eat their colors. And so if you serve a variety of different vegetables and fruits too, as we combine the different colors, and I like to think of it as a healthy rainbow. And if we ask kids to make a rainbow on your plate, that's an easy way to do it. As we're eating our different colors, we're eating different vitamins and minerals and other nutrients. So I just want to give you a couple of examples here of some common things that we might commonly eat at home and that are super easy for you to grow, even in pots with your kids. So I'm just going to refer to my notes here for a second. So one of the easiest vegetables to grow are actually potatoes. You don't even need to go and get any seeds or any special plants for those. You can take some of the potatoes that you have in your kitchen and cut out the eyes with a little bit of the flesh of the potato and just plant it in a pot. And that has to be a nice deep pot because you want to have lots of soil underneath for the potatoes to grow because they grow underground. But when we think of potatoes, potatoes have lots of fiber. They have lots of antioxidants, which help to prevent cancer. They're full of vitamin C, B6, potassium, manganese, and of course they have some good protein and some carbs in there as well. So there's your color, there's your white. So then you've got carrots. Carrots are a nice underground vegetable again. They can be grown in limited quantities in some small pots. And they contain vitamins A, K1, and B6. It's often hard to get vitamin K in vegetables, and it's a good source. Peas, super easy for kids to grow. That's one of the first seeds because it's so nice and large and easy for them to handle. You can, start it in a water-based environment and transfer it over to a pot. Peas are super easy. And of course, they've got vitamins A, C, and B. You've got your broccoli and your spinach. And broccoli and spinach are actually two vegetables that you will get a few more nutrients from if you cook them just a little bit. Just give them a light steaming, you'll get more nutrients out of them. So broccoli, C, K, some iron. It's actually a good source of protein as well. Spinach, potassium, manganese, the B vitamins, vitamin C, vitamin K, folic acid. So amazing. Blueberries. Blueberries are considered to be one of the superfoods. We are blessed in Canada to have good sources of blueberries, but you can also try growing them in your backyard. That's a fun little thing for kids to do. And they have CK and antioxidants. And of course, we've got other things throughout the years too. So strawberries, tomatoes, onions, and all of these things have just a little bit different nutrition. So if you try and create that little rainbow on your plate, you're pretty well guaranteed you're going to end up with a balanced diet. So I'd just like to say in closing about that, any of those veggies that we talked about are great to grow in pots. You don't need to have a big piece of land to be able to grow some veggies. I have a friend that lived in an apartment, and she had come from a farm originally, and she really wanted to teach her children how to grow vegetables. So she got a bunch of containers and brought some potting soil up to the balcony and grew all of those vegetables that I just talked about. She was able to grow successfully on her balcony and was able to teach her children where the veggies came from. And of course, once kids are involved in gardening, they usually want to eat things that they've grown, or at least they want to try them. So it's good to get them involved in gardening from the beginning. So I'd like to talk a little bit about lifelong learning. I think gardening provides a lot of lessons, and we never stop learning when we're in the garden. And for this foundation, I want to talk a little bit about my journey through gardening and show you some pictures of my garden and how over the years I kind of expanded my garden into other interests. So I've been gardening since I was a very young child, first with my grandmother and then with my mother. And what I learned was that everybody has a very different style of gardening, and it doesn't really matter how you do it. You're always going to learn something from other gardeners. Everybody has gifts and knowledge that they want to share. So as I live in an urban area now, and I have a very full garden. So I like to grow some vegetables. I have some, so there's some pictures of garlic here on the left-hand side. And I've got, on the right-hand side, I've got some pictures of some native plants and some vegetables that have overwintered. So the leeks are in their second year. I just want to say about the garlic, I never actually went out and bought any special garlic. I just planted what I had in my fridge one day, and success. This is an easy thing for kids to be able to grow. That and onions, they have to be some of the simplest and most successful things that you can grow, because kids like to see the outcome, and they can't always wait for that. So these are some easy plants. So as we move on, I have some pictures here of various plants through spring and summer, and these are all, really good sources of food for some of the insects and some of the birds. I'm an avid bird watcher. So I grow a lot of plants that end up having seeds on the top of them so that I can do some bird watching in the garden. So the coneflowers and the black-eyed Susans are very good for that. The birds just absolutely love them, and I never cut them down until very late in the fall when all the seeds are gone. So, oh, this is some of my bee balm that I have. It's just a wonderful mass of color. And then off to the left is a very tall herb that's called lovage. And it's a member of the celery family, and you can use it for cooking. And it's an old Victorian herb that's found in some gardens. So what I did notice when I planted the lovage there, it grew very fast and very tall, and every year it attracted these beautiful blue bees. And I only see them at that plant and only at a certain time in the year for about 3 weeks, and then they're gone. And I think that helped to get me thinking about pollinators and planting more plants that were good for not just the birds, but for the insects as well. And we've all heard about pollinators, how we don't have enough anymore. And that really started me thinking about maybe I'd like to do something with bees. So this is one of my sunflowers. So this was taken, this picture was taken this fall, and that's one of my allium plants. And both of those little bees that are on there are actually from my beehives. So I decided I would move just after I planted some pollinator gardens, I decided I would take the next step and I would investigate some urban beekeeping. And I was able to sign up for a few different courses. This was back before the pandemic. I was actually able to go, in person to take some courses, and I am able to keep bees in our backyard here in the urban area. So I have a lot of plants that the bees are able to feed on. But the interesting thing about bees is that they have a radius of about 5 kilometers where they fly. And of course, that gets you interested in thinking about what else is out in the neighborhood. So just a quick look at these pictures here. These are 2 of the bottom supers, the boxes where the bees live all year long. I have my husband here helping out. The one thing that was a bit unexpected when I started with beekeeping was I guess I didn't take into consideration how heavy those boxes would be. And each one of the boxes, you can see where he's grabbing that top box there, when they're filled with honey and bees and all the eggs and the brood and everything like that, they weigh about 70 pounds each. So I decided at that point I needed an apprentice, and so he's been helping me in my journey in beekeeping. A lot of it for the heavy lifting, but he quite enjoys the bees, and for the most part, our bees are quite gentle. So I thought I would show you this. I realize he has his Bite Me shirt on. That was left over from a southern vacation somewhere. But I must say that on the day that we were cleaning up the hive, not one bee stung either one of us. So in the summer, they're very gentle. They're very busy out collecting pollen, and they're really not interested in people at all. They're just interested in collecting pollen and nectar and bringing it back to feed their young. So here's a quick video of my hive in action. If you listen carefully, you could actually just hear them. It's quite mesmerizing to sit and listen and watch the bees. They have a very specific flight path, And in the fall, as an added bonus, this is not something I had really planned on the first year, but as an added bonus, we ended up getting some honey. And now that I have 2 hives, we do actually have quite a bit of honey. And there is nothing quite like the taste of local honey from your own backyard. This is just a little felt ornament, a little teaching tool. One of the things I've noticed is that when you talk about bees, especially with children, children are quite open to learning. If you teach children from a young age not to be afraid, they're going to embrace things like beehives and beekeeping and planting pollinator gardens and things like that. So that's a little bit about my journey and my lifelong learning. And I think where it's taking me right now is once I realized that the bees had quite a radius of about 5 kilometers from the hive, I started getting more involved, in my neighborhood, looking at what is actually around. When do the linden trees bloom and the maple trees bloom, and how important those early trees are with their pollen and their nectar for the survival of not just our bees, but many other insects around as well. So that kind of leads you down the path into thinking about conservation and being more cautious about the environment. So I have to say it's been a fun journey, and I'm really appreciative of all the lifelong learning that gardening has really provided to me. So all of those foundations, amazingly important, but I really think that lifelong learning is probably the foundation that I have the most fun with now. And still through my work, I'm still trying to involve children and getting them more involved with the gardens and just teaching. So that's kind of a little bit about me and my journey through gardening and why I think gardens are so critical for all of us.
Thank you so much, Joan. I
Thank you
really
for having me.
talk, and I hope that our viewers have learned something, have been inspired by your journey, and thank you once again.
Well, thanks for having me, and hopefully I will see some people out at our community garden sometime. Thank you.
Likewise. Thank you.